Over the last 40 years or so, the definition of waifus, best girls, whatever you want to call them, has changed dramatically. Let's take a look back to the very beginning and work our way back up to now. What exactly is a waifu and where did the term come from? Well, to learn that, you'll have to take a trip with me back to 1980s Japan. Back then, Japanese people were faced with a problem. They could continue to call their spouses kanai, which literally means inside the house, almost forcing the implication that their wives would be stay at home or bound to the home. And that's icky. Gross. Get out of here. I don't like it. So in an effort to essentially change the whole meaning of it, they adopted the English word wife, but pronounced it waifu. This wouldn't come into prominence in the anime world until the mid-2000s with Azumanga a slice-of-life comedy series. In the titular episode, a teacher is asked who the woman in a picture with him is, and in response he says she's my waifu in English, and thus the meme, and perhaps lifestyle, was born. Nowadays, it's almost never used to describe your spouse, but is instead meant to denote your best girl, or an anime character that you have an intense attraction to. But for now, let's ignore that and head back to the 80s. It's 1981 and Rumiko Takahashi's brand new series Urusei Yatsura is airing. Lum Invader is introduced to Japanese audiences and the rest is history. Yes, Lum is widely agreed to be the first waifu, or at least the first publicly agreed upon one. It's not that hard to see why, honestly. Urusei Yatsura's main lead, Ataru, is a jackass through and through, but still throughout his persistent cheating and general douchebaggery, Lum stays loyal with him. Across waifu culture, a main aspect of the waifu seems to be loyalty, the feeling that if your waifu was really real, she'd probably stick it out with you till the end. Lum certainly fits the bill, and I can see why many were struck by her character. Fast forwarding a bit to the 1990s, and suddenly things become a bit controversial. A great divide has split the anime community into two. The Great Waifu Wars. It's 1995, Hideki Anno's masterpiece Neon Genesis Evangelion has been released, and you were either on Asuka Langley's side or Rei Ayanami, and there was no in-between. Over the years, there have been many waifu wars. Asuka vs. Rei, Taiga vs. Minoran, Rem vs. Amelia, Yotsuba vs. Miku vs. Nino vs. Ichika vs. Itsuki, you know, just normal things. Waifu wars occur only when the most dividing of things happens. The main character doesn't pick your best girl. It's bound to happen in anime that have more than one love interest. It didn't happen this way in Urusei Yatsura because, for all of Ataru's flaws, there was no way he was pulling anyone besides Lum, and even then that was a miracle. Waifu wars happen most often when it's a harem series, or generally when a choice of love interest is presented. Waifu wars also have a pretty short lifespan, and the topic sort of dies down once a girl has been picked by the MC. Of course, people will die on the hill of this girl should have won. Nino for the win, by the way. But if a girl wins in the show, she wins the war. Speaking of the 1990s, longest segue ever I know, let's take a look at a lot of American people's first ever waifu. While waifu culture was still developing in Japan, it was nowhere to be seen in the United States, just because anime wasn't really the thing here. Not until the likes of Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, and Sailor Moon showed up would there be any noticeable interest in anime at all. Sure, you had die-hard anime fans ordering fan subs on VHS and waiting months for them to show up, but being an anime fan in the 90s was difficult and would often lead to ridicule. With the arrival of Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z, anime started to become cool. And, oh yeah, there's that other one, but hey, that's just for girls, right? Wrong. Sailor Moon was f***ing awesome, and of course it was 100% marketed as a girls' show, but it had all the ingredients for a great action anime. And while I'm sure guys never admitted on the playground that they watched Serena's adventures, an American waifu was born. What's not to love? She's a girl, and it's anime? I'll be honest, Usagi's early character, especially in the Deke dub, was not great. She's a whiny 14-year-old who usually relies on other people to do the work for her. Doesn't exactly paint a great picture for a series that's meant to have positive female role models, but that seems to be par for the course with heavily censored Americanized dubs. Sailor Moon's original English dub never saw all of the Japanese version's story adapted, as it only got 65 episodes. Maybe that's enough to decide that Usagi is waifu material, but I just don't see it, honestly. Come the new millennia, and with its appearance in Azumanga Daioh, the otaku community finally had a word they could use to truly express their feelings. The term waifu wasn't widespread until 2006, with an Urban Dictionary listing being made in 2007. Yes, around this time, the word became commonplace, and its usage thrived on online forums. Eventually, a new word in a similar vein came into popular use: husbando. It's like waifu, but just the other way around. Well, we're now well into the 2000s, and here waifus and husbandos start to become a bit more varied. Most anime fans now use the internet and have places to discuss their waifus. Instead of waifus just being from the most popular anime airing, we start to see some more obscure ones make the rounds. Of course, you still have your Nami from One Piece and Hinata from Naruto, but as more and more shoujo works become popular in the West, the number of possible waifus skyrockets. Nana from, well, Nana comes to mind. Yui from K-On! Is a favorite of mine. Or one of the waifus that defined the mid-2000s, Haruhi from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. You couldn't f***ing avoid her. Every convention you go to, you'd see that dance. You know the one. Seriously. Go back to 2007 to 2010 YouTube and you'll find only the most bit-crushed examples of flash mobs, cosplay meetups, and plenty of anime expo excursions. Haruhi must have been a god to these people. It almost harkens back to an era of anime that's long gone. You don't just see people acting like this in public anymore for anime, unless it's about My Hero Academia, but as cringe as some people might find it, I miss the sense of community anime used to have. Since anime is now mainstream and you're branded as weird for not liking it, it's just different now. Believe me, I see way more hate in the community now than 10 years ago. That's probably a video for another time though. For now, let's get back to waifus. Once we hit the 2010s, waifus become mainstream again. Mikasa from Attack on Titan, Mai Sakurajima from Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, just every quintuplet from Quintessential Quintuplets, Komi from Komi Can't Communicate, Shinobu from Demon Slayer, Saber from Fate, Zero Two from Darling in the Franxx, Toru from Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, but at the top, there is one. It is not wise to speak their name, but for you loyal viewers, I shall risk it. Rem from ReZero. Do you understand how many people are ride or die for this bitch? I haven't even seen the show, but I know Rem and Ram. There must be thousands upon thousands of pieces of merch just for Rem. Figures, shirts, dakimakuras, towels, mousepads, little acrylic stands. I mean, Jesus. I implore you to find me a piece of ReZero merch that has the main character on it. You can't, man. It's all f***ing Rem. Rem Zero aside, this is the era where the phrase best girl starts to mean essentially the same thing as waifu. Nothing personifies this more than Marin Kitagawa from My Dress Up Darling. The best girl to unite all weebs. You can't deny it. She's so popular that they decided to make a season 2 when it was only meant to be a single season promotional anime for the manga. Now that is the power of a true waifu. I think the term waifu has evolved since its inception in the early 2000s. It was a way to describe your intense romantic feelings for someone who doesn't exist. Like, yeah, if Asuka was real, I would marry her. That's definitely a hill to die on. Not my hill, but it's still a hill. But in the past 20 years, it's come to mean a cute anime girl or your best girl. I think we're beyond the days when we hear about dudes who actually try to marry anime girls, but are we really better off now? The term is so genericized, it doesn't carry any weight anymore, especially when you can have more than one waifu. While I don't think there are any traits earlier waifu had that newer ones don't have, I still think there's been a clear evolution since the 80s. Not in the characters themselves, but in the meaning of the word we use to describe them. Are waifus really for laifu? No. We grow beyond what we liked as kids. I don't see many people talking about Haruhi anymore. Maybe that's just a sign a new generation has taken over popular discourse on the internet, and maybe we're worse off for it. Still, there are some dedicated people out there that stick by the waifu for laifu mantra. To you, loyal weeb, I salute you. Hey, I don't usually do the whole begging for likes and subs thing, but we're nearing 1,000 subscribers, which means I'll be able to apply for monetization and improve the production quality of these videos. If you liked what you saw, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and possibly checking out some of my other videos. It will mean so much if you did, and thank you so much for watching.